The massive alien ship appeared over New York without warning on a quiet Tuesday morning. It hung in the sky like a dark cloud, stretching nearly 2 miles across. Panic spread quickly. People ran through the streets while military jets scrambled and were swatted away like flies. The world watched in fear as more ships appeared over major cities across the globe. Humanity faced its first contact with an alien civilization, and it was not going well. Commander Allison Wright stood in the United Earth Defense Force Command Center, her eyes fixed on the main screen. At 42, she had spent her entire adult life preparing for threats to Earth. None of her training had prepared her for this. The aliens called themselves the Arcturian Hegemony. Their first message had been simple: prepare for integration into their empire. Earth had 30 days. They're requesting another meeting, said Lieutenant Paul Davis, looking up from his console. Same terms as before. One representative, Allison nodded. The first 3 diplomatic meetings had ended badly. Earth's best diplomats had tried reason, offers of trade, even threats. The aliens had responded with amusement. To them, humans were simply another species to be added to their collection. Get me a direct line to the Security Council, Allison said. I have a different approach. 1 hour later, Allison stood before the 12 members of the Earth Security Council. The room was tense. 4 previous proposals had been rejected. Commander Wright, we've heard all the military options, said Counselor Henry Grant, his voice tired. None of them are viable against their technology. I'm not proposing a military strike, Allison replied. I'm proposing we show them what humans are truly capable of. I want to send in Project Cerberus. The room went silent. Project Cerberus was classified at the highest levels. Most people in the room had only heard rumors. Counselor Elena Martinez leaned forward. You want to send in a war beast instead of a diplomat? That would confirm their worst assumptions about us. With respect, Counselor, these aliens only respect strength and military prowess. They've conquered 17 species before us. Each of those species tried diplomacy. Each of them failed. Allison tapped her tablet and an image appeared on the main screen. I want to send in Master Sergeant Kevin Reeves. The image showed a man in his early 30s with short brown hair and intense blue eyes. He looked ordinary enough, but everyone in the room knew better. Reeves is the most successful subject from Project Cerberus, Allison continued. Enhanced strength, speed, and neural processing. He can analyze combat situations 3 times faster than our best tactical computers. His body can neutralize most toxins. He was designed for exactly this kind of impossible situation. He's also unstable, said Counselor Grant. The last psychological evaluation showed exactly what we expected. Allison cut in. The enhancements come with side effects, but he's still human enough to follow orders and smart enough to adapt to unknown situations. The council debated for hours. In the end, they had no better options. The vote was 8-4 in favor of Allison's plan. Project Cerberus would represent Earth. Deep beneath the Rocky Mountains in a facility that didn't officially exist, Master Sergeant Kevin Reeves hit the punching bag so hard it tore from its chain. It was the 3rd one this week. He stood 6 feet tall with a lean, muscular build that hid his true strength. Sweat dripped down his face as he unwrapped the tape from his hands. Still holding back, I see. Dr. Samantha Miller walked into the training room carrying a tablet. She was in her late 30s with dark hair pulled back in a tight bun. As the chief scientist for Project Cerberus, she had overseen every enhancement procedure performed on Reeves. If I didn't hold back, there wouldn't be a facility left, Kevin replied, grabbing a towel. His voice was deeper than it used to be, another side effect of the procedures. Fair point, Sam said with a small smile. The council has approved a mission for you. It's what we've been preparing for. Kevin's expression didn't change, but his eyes narrowed slightly. They're that desperate? The aliens have given us 30 days before they begin what they call the harvest. We've tried talking. It didn't work. Kevin followed Sam to the briefing room. The walls were lined with screens showing images of the alien ships and what little information Earth had gathered about the Arcturians. Commander Wright was waiting for them. Sergeant Reeves, she said, nodding. Thank you for joining us. Not like I had a choice, Kevin replied. He sat down across from her. What exactly am I supposed to do? Kill their leader? No, Allison said firmly. At least not yet. You're going to be our diplomatic representative. Kevin actually laughed, a harsh sound that held little humor. I'm the last person you want as a diplomat. You're exactly who we need, Allison countered. These aliens respect strength above all else. Their society is built on dominance hierarchies. You don't need to talk pretty. You need to show them that humans aren't easy prey. Sam brought up images on the main screen. This is what we know about Arcturian physiology. They stand between 7 and 8 feet tall. Their skeletal structure is similar to ours, but denser. They have 4 arms, enhanced vision, and skin-like scales. Their physical strength exceeds human baseline by approximately 300%. So about my level, Kevin noted. On paper, yes, Sam agreed. But they've had these abilities naturally for thousands of years. They know how to use them effectively. You've had yours for 3 years. The Arcturians have demanded one representative meet with their supreme commander, Allison explained. You'll go alone, appearing as a diplomatic envoy. Your enhancements and combat gear will be disguised as formal attire. We've developed synthetic materials that should mask your implants from their scanners. Kevin studied the alien images. And when diplomacy fails? Then you show them what Project Cerberus is capable of, Allison said quietly. We need time. Every day you can keep their attention is another day for Earth to prepare. Kevin was silent for a long moment. You know what happens when I fully engage combat protocols. I might not come back as the person you sent. Sam placed a hand on his arm. It was a gesture few people would dare with him. We've adjusted your neural implants. The combat overdrive has new limiters. You should maintain cognitive control even at peak performance. Should? Kevin raised an eyebrow. Nothing about this mission has guarantees, Allison admitted, but Earth is out of options. Later that night, Kevin stood alone in his quarters looking at his reflection in the mirror. Behind him on the bed lay the special diplomatic uniform that would conceal his true nature. He barely recognized himself anymore. The procedures had changed him inside and out. He remembered being a regular soldier once. He had volunteered for Project Cerberus after losing his squad in Lagos. The scientists had warned him about the changes, but words couldn't prepare him for the reality. The pain as they replaced parts of his skeleton with carbon polymer composites, the burning as they rewired his nervous system, the nightmares after they installed the neural implants that let him process information like a computer. Now he was Earth's last hope. A weapon disguised as a man, or maybe a man disguised as a weapon. Sometimes he wasn't sure which. The next morning, Kevin boarded a small ship designed to look like a diplomatic vessel. Inside were hidden compartments containing emergency supplies and weapons. Commander Wright saw him off. Remember your training, she said. Observe first. Learn their weaknesses. Act only when necessary, Kevin nodded. And if I don't come back? Then we'll know exactly what we're facing, Allison replied honestly. Good luck, Sergeant. The small ship lifted off, rising through the atmosphere toward the massive Arcturian flagship orbiting Earth. Kevin felt the familiar calm that came before a mission. His heart rate slowed. His mind cleared. Project Cerberus was going to meet the aliens. Earth hadn't sent a diplomat. They had deployed a war beast. Kevin felt the small ship dock with the massive Arcturian flagship. His enhanced senses picked up subtle vibrations as the docking clamps locked into place. He stood and straightened his formal attire, which cleverly concealed the combat gear underneath. The outfit looked like an Earth diplomat's uniform but was made of synthetic fibers that could stop most projectiles and contained hidden compartments for emergency equipment. His neural implant activated silently, beginning to record everything he would see and hear. The airlock door slid open. 3 Arcturians stood waiting for him. Kevin had studied the images from Earth's briefing, but seeing them in person was different. They towered over him at nearly 8 feet tall, their iridescent scales shifting colors under the ship's lights. Each had 4 muscular arms ending in hands with 3 fingers and an opposable thumb. Their faces were flat with no visible nose, just breathing slits, and their eyes were large with vertical pupils like a cat's. The human representative will follow, said the one in the center. Its voice had an odd resonating quality that made Kevin's teeth vibrate slightly. The universal translator in his ear converted the sounds to English. Kevin nodded but said nothing. He had been briefed to observe first and speak little. The aliens led him through corridors that would have been impressive to a normal human. To Kevin's enhanced vision and processing, he was mapping every turn, noting potential defensive positions and identifying what appeared to be critical systems. His implants highlighted possible weaknesses in the ship's design, information that was being recorded for Earth Command. They arrived at a massive chamber that could only be described as a throne room. Dozens of Arcturians lined the walls, all wearing variations of what Kevin assumed were military uniforms. At the far end sat a larger Arcturian on a raised platform. Its scales were deeper in color with patterns that seemed to indicate rank or status. Supreme Commander Drazkul welcomes the Earth specimen, announced one of Kevin's escorts. Kevin noticed the word choice, not representative or envoy, but specimen. It confirmed what Earth intelligence had suspected. To the Arcturians, humans were just another species to catalog and exploit. Drazkul spoke, his voice deeper and more resonant than the others. So this is what Earth sends to negotiate its surrender. A small fragile specimen with no apparent rank or significance. Kevin remained silent, his face betraying no emotion. His neural implants were working overtime, analyzing the room, the positions of each alien, their weapons, and the subtle hierarchical interactions between them. He counted 17 armed guards, each with what appeared to be energy weapons similar to those used against Earth's jets. Does it speak? Drazkul asked, addressing his subordinates rather than Kevin directly. The previous ones talked endlessly about peace and cooperation. It was tiresome. One of the aliens approached Kevin, circling him like a predator. Perhaps this one is defective. Or perhaps Earth has finally accepted its place and sent a servant rather than another useless diplomat. Kevin tracked the alien's movement without turning his head. His enhanced peripheral vision made it unnecessary. He was cataloging their movement patterns, noting how their forearms affected their balance and gait. The integration ceremony will proceed, Drazkul announced. Bring the welcome drink. Another Arcturian approached with a container of glowing blue liquid. It extended the container to Kevin with its lower right arm. Kevin's implants immediately analyzed the substance through his skin sensors. The liquid contained compounds that would be highly toxic to normal humans. Without hesitation, Kevin took the container and drank the entire contents in one smooth motion. The aliens watched, clearly expecting him to collapse or show signs of distress. Instead, Kevin's enhanced metabolism began neutralizing the toxins immediately. His implants had to work harder, causing his internal temperature to rise slightly, but his face remained impassive. A murmur ran through the assembled aliens. Drazkul leaned forward on his throne, his large eyes narrowing. Interesting, the Supreme Commander said. Your species has more resilience than we anticipated. The others we conquered usually died from the welcome drink. It is our first test of a species' worthiness. Kevin finally spoke, his voice calm and measured. Earth appreciates your hospitality. His words were clearly not what the aliens expected. Drazkul made a sound that might have been laughter. It speaks with respect while standing in the heart of the force that will conquer its world. Perhaps humans will make better servants than the last species we harvested. Drazkul gestured to one of his guards. Demonstrate our physical superiority to our guest. Perhaps then it will understand why resistance is pointless. A large Arcturian stepped forward. It was taller than the others with more pronounced scale patterns that Kevin's implants suggested indicated elite status. The alien removed its outer garment, revealing a muscular torso covered in scales that seemed to function as natural armor. This is Kavor, my personal guard captain, Drazkul explained. He will show you why 17 species before yours chose surrender over resistance. Kavor approached Kevin, flexing all 4 of his arms. I will try not to damage Earth's representative too severely, he said, his mouth forming what might have been a smile. Kevin remained still, his posture relaxed but balanced. His implants were calculating optimal responses based on what he had observed of Arcturian physiology. When Kavor struck, his upper right arm moving in a blur toward Kevin's head, Kevin simply wasn't there anymore. He stepped inside the alien's reach with a speed that surprised even the Arcturians. Their eyes widened as they tried to track his movement. Kevin's hand shot out, striking Kavor precisely where his implants had identified a nerve cluster beneath the scales. The alien's right arm went limp immediately. Kavor roared in surprise and swung with his other 3 arms. Kevin moved through the attacks with fluid precision, each movement calculated to use minimum energy for maximum effect. He struck pressure points and joint connections that his implants had mapped as vulnerabilities. Within seconds, Kavor was on his knees, all 4 arms hanging useless at his sides. The room went silent. Drazkul stood from his throne, his scales darkening in what Kevin's implant suggested was an anger response. Bring in the rest of the guard, the Supreme Commander ordered. 5 more elite Arcturian warriors entered the chamber. each carrying what appeared to be shock staffs. They surrounded Kevin, who stood calmly in the center of their circle. His heart rate remained steady, his breathing controlled. The neural implants in his brain were running combat protocols, calculating trajectories and weak points. The first guard attacked from behind. Kevin didn't need to look. His enhanced hearing picked up the subtle shift in air pressure. He pivoted, caught the shock staff, and used the alien's momentum to throw it into two of its companions. As the other guards moved in, Kevin's movements became faster, more precise. He wasn't fighting like a human anymore. He was fighting like the weapon Project Cerberus had designed him to be. One by one, the elite guards fell. Some with dislocated joints, others with nerve clusters temporarily paralyzed. Kevin didn't kill any of them. He didn't need to. His orders were to demonstrate, not eliminate. When the last guard collapsed, Kevin stood alone in the center of the room. His breathing was slightly elevated, but otherwise he showed no signs of exertion. He straightened his formal attire and turned to face Drazkul. The Supreme Commander was standing now, his four arms rigid with what Kevin's implants identified as a mixture of rage and something else. Something close to fear. What are you? Drazkul demanded. Kevin walked forward, stopping at the base of the raised platform. He looked up at the alien leader, his blue eyes calm and cold. I am Earth's diplomatic representative, Kevin said quietly. Perhaps we should discuss those terms again. The assembled Arcturians were silent, staring at the human who had just defeated 6 of their elite warriors without apparent effort. Kevin could see them reassessing, recalculating their assumptions about humanity. Drazkul slowly sat back on his throne. It seems, he said carefully, that our intelligence on your species was incomplete. Perhaps 30 days was too generous a timeline. Perhaps we should accelerate our plans. Kevin remained expressionless, but his implants were recording the change in tone, the subtle shifts in the room's power dynamic. Earth had wanted to make an impression. Based on the stunned expressions of the aliens surrounding him, that mission was accomplished. Earth hadn't sent a diplomat. They had deployed a war beast, and the Arcturians were beginning to understand what that meant. Kevin was escorted to his quarters after the confrontation in the throne room. The Arcturians kept their distance now, their body language showing a new wariness. His assigned room was small and sparse by human standards, but functional. A sleeping platform, a cleaning station that resembled a shower, and a view screen showing the stars. The door sealed behind him with a hiss. He was a prisoner now, but that had been expected. Once alone, Kevin activated the subdermal communication implant behind his ear. The device was designed to be undetectable by Arcturian scanners. It created a narrow beam transmission that could reach Earth despite the distance. Cerberus to control, he subvocalized, the words never leaving his lips. Initial contact complete. Back on Earth in the underground command center, Dr. Samantha Miller sat up straight as Kevin's signal came through. Commander Wright moved to stand behind her chair, watching the data stream across the screen. Control to Cerberus, Sam replied, her voice transmitting directly to the implant in Kevin's head. We're receiving. Status? I'm being held in quarters that double as a cell, Kevin reported. Security is heavy but not impenetrable. Their technology is advanced but follows logical patterns. Most importantly, I've made an impression. They didn't expect resistance. Did they harm you? Sam asked, concern in her voice. They tried, Kevin replied. The toxin they gave me was neutralized by my systems. Then they sent 6 warriors to subdue me. I disabled them without killing any. The Supreme Commander Drazkul was not pleased. Commander Wright leaned closer to the microphone. What's your assessment of their military capabilities? Greater than our estimates, Kevin said. I've counted at least 500 warriors on this ship alone, and there are more ships in their fleet. Their weapons are energy-based, highly efficient, but they have weaknesses. Their forearms give them advantages in combat but also create additional vulnerabilities. Their hierarchical structure is rigid. When I defeated their elite guards, it created confusion. The Security Council is divided, Wright informed him. Some want to use your presence to buy time for diplomacy. Others think you should attempt to sabotage their flagship before they attack. Kevin was silent for a moment. Both options assume I won't survive. That's not the plan, Sam interjected quickly. But we need to consider all scenarios. I understand, Kevin said. I'll continue gathering intelligence. Cerberus out. He ended the transmission and began examining his quarters more carefully. His enhanced vision could detect surveillance devices hidden in the walls. The Arcturians were watching him. Good. Let them see a calm, controlled human. Let them wonder what else he was capable of. Kevin lay down on the sleeping platform and closed his eyes, appearing to rest. In reality, his mind remained alert while his body recovered. One advantage of his enhancements was the ability to rest specific systems while others remained active. 4 hours of this partial sleep was equivalent to 8 hours of normal human sleep. During the ship's night cycle, when activity was reduced, Kevin silently rose from his platform. The door to his quarters was locked, but the locking mechanism was simple for someone with his capabilities. He placed his palm against the control panel and sent a specific electrical pulse through his skin. The door slid open silently. The corridor outside was dimly lit. Kevin moved like a shadow, his footsteps making no sound. His implants mapped the ship as he explored, creating a detailed mental blueprint. He discovered weapon storage areas, power distribution nodes, and communication centers, all valuable information for Earth. On the third night of his exploration, Kevin encountered another Arcturian walking alone. This one was smaller than the warriors, with lighter-colored scales and more delicate features. It turned a corner and stopped abruptly upon seeing him. "You should not be here, human," it said, but made no move to sound an alarm. Kevin assessed the alien quickly, female, based on the vocal patterns and physical differences from the warriors he had fought. Younger than most he had seen. Her uniform indicated some kind of scientific or technical role rather than military. "I was given permission to move freely." Kevin lied smoothly. "Are you going to report me, Arcturian?" "My name is Kiravex," she replied. "I am a sub-commander in the technical division, and I know you were not given permission to wander the ship." Kevin prepared himself for a potential confrontation, but Kiravex surprised him. "However," she continued, "I am curious about you. The warrior who defeated 6 of our elite guard without weapons. You are not what we expected from Earth. What did you expect?" Kevin asked, watching her carefully. "Weakness," she admitted. "The other species we conquered sent diplomats who begged for mercy. You are something else entirely." Kevin studied her. His implants detected subtle differences in her speech patterns and body language compared to the other Arcturians he had encountered. She seemed genuinely curious rather than hostile. "Perhaps humans are not what your intelligence suggested," he said. "Perhaps," Kiravex agreed. "Or perhaps you are unique among your kind. Either way, you have created quite a disturbance in our hierarchy. Supreme Commander Drazkul is not accustomed to being challenged." "I didn't challenge him," Kevin pointed out. "I defended myself when attacked. A distinction that matters to humans, perhaps, but not to Arcturians." Kiravex moved closer, studying him with her large, vertical pupilled eyes. "Combat prowess determines rank in our society. By defeating the elite guard, you have inadvertently claimed a position of respect." This was valuable information. Kevin stored it for later transmission to Earth. "And how does Drazkul feel about that?" "He sees you as a threat now," she said simply. "Be careful, human. Drazkul does not tolerate threats for long." Before Kevin could respond, an alarm began to sound throughout the ship. Red lights flashed in the corridor. Kiravex's scales changed color slightly, darkening in what Kevin's implants suggested was an anxiety response. "What's happening?" he asked. "We're under attack," she replied, turning toward a nearby console. She pressed several controls, bringing up images on a screen. "The Navari Collective. They must have followed us to this system." Kevin watched as the screen showed another fleet of ships approaching the Arcturian forces. These vessels were different in design, more organic-looking with curved lines and fewer visible weapons. "Who are the Navari?" he asked. "A rival species," Kiravex explained quickly. "They compete with us for resources and territory. They are fewer in number but more technologically advanced in some areas. Their biology allows them to interface directly with their technology in ways we cannot." The ship shuddered as something struck it. The lights flickered briefly. "You should return to your quarters," Kiravex told him. "This area will soon be filled with warriors responding to battle stations." Kevin nodded but had no intention of hiding, while valuable intelligence could be gathered. As Kiravex hurried away, he moved in the opposite direction toward the source of the commotion. His implants guided him toward what appeared to be a command center based on the ship's layout he had mapped. He found a position near the command center, where he could observe without being immediately noticed. Inside, Arcturian officers were gathered around holographic displays showing the battle in space. Drazkul stood in the center, issuing orders in the rapid, clicking language of his species. Kevin's translator processed the words. The situation was worse than Kiravex had suggested. The Navari had caught the Arcturians by surprise. Their ships were faster and more maneuverable, though fewer in number. As he watched, one of the Arcturian vessels exploded in a silent flash of light. They're targeting our command ships, an officer reported. Our defenses are holding for now, but they've brought more vessels than in previous encounters. They know we're preparing to harvest a new world, Drazkul growled. They want to steal Earth for themselves. Kevin's muscles tensed at these words. The Navari were another threat to Earth, potentially worse than the Arcturians. He needed more information. The flagship shuddered again, more violently this time. Alarms blared louder. Hull breach in Sector 7, an officer announced. Navari boarding parties detected. Seal the affected sections, Drazkul ordered. Deploy warriors to repel the boarders. This was a critical development. Kevin needed to see these Navari for himself. To assess this new threat to Earth, he slipped away from his observation point and headed toward Sector 7, where the boarding parties had breached the ship. As he moved through the corridors, he encountered groups of Arcturian warriors rushing to battle stations. None paid him much attention in the chaos. His enhanced hearing picked up sounds of combat ahead, energy weapons, shouts, and something else. A high-pitched keening that made the hair on the back of his neck stand up. Kevin rounded a corner and stopped. The corridor ahead was littered with Arcturian bodies. Some were still moving, wounded but alive. Others were completely still. Moving among them were figures unlike anything Kevin had seen before. The Navari were roughly human-sized but with no discernible heads. Their bodies were vaguely humanoid but covered in a metallic flowing substance that shifted and changed as they moved. Where a head should be, they had a cluster of sensory organs that glowed with an inner light. They moved with a fluid grace that suggested their bodies weren't fully solid. Kevin moved back from the corridor before the Navari could detect him. His mind raced as he processed this new information. He needed to contact Earth immediately. The Navari represented a threat potentially worse than the Arcturians. At least the Arcturians wanted to conquer and rule. The Navari appeared to harvest biological material from living beings. He found a maintenance alcove and activated his communication implant. Cerberus to control. Emergency transmission. Back on Earth, Dr. Samantha Miller was awakened by the priority alert. She rushed to the command center where Commander Wright was already waiting. Cerberus, this is Control, Sam responded. We're receiving. The situation has changed, Kevin reported. The Arcturian flagship is under attack by another alien species called the Navari Collective. They're boarding the ship. From what I've observed, they extract biological material from living victims. They appear to be partially metallic with fluid-like bodies and no distinct heads. Are they a threat to you? Commander Wright asked. Unknown, Kevin replied, but they're definitely a threat to Earth. If they defeat the Arcturians, they'll likely target Earth next. And their harvesting methods are more immediately lethal than Arcturian conquest. There was a pause as Earth Command processed this information. What's your recommendation? Wright finally asked. Kevin hesitated only briefly. I believe our strategic position is better with the Arcturians than the Navari. The Arcturians at least follow predictable patterns and have a society we can potentially negotiate with. The Navari appear more alien in their thinking and methods. Are you suggesting we ally with the Arcturians? Wright sounded skeptical. I'm suggesting I help repel the Navari boarding parties, Kevin clarified. It gives me an opportunity to gather more intelligence on both species and potentially position humans more favorably with the Arcturians. Another pause. Kevin could imagine the debate happening in the command center. Approved, Wright finally said, but primary mission parameters remain unchanged. Your survival and intelligence gathering are priorities. Understood. Cerberus out. Kevin ended the transmission and prepared himself for combat. He would need to use more of his enhancements than he had revealed so far. He placed his palm against his chest, activating the control circuit embedded under his skin. A series of nanomachines in his bloodstream received the signal and began altering his biochemistry. His pupils dilated until his eyes appeared almost black. The veins near the surface of his skin glowed faintly with a blue light as his enhanced circulation increased. His muscles tensed and relaxed in rapid sequence as the combat protocols fully engaged. On Earth, Sam watched Kevin's vital signs spike on her monitor. "He's activated combat overdrive," she told Wright. "Full enhancement protocol. Will he maintain control?" Wright asked, concern evident in her voice. "The new limiters should help," Sam replied, "but we've never tested them in actual combat conditions." Kevin moved through the ship with increased speed now, no longer concerned about staying hidden. He headed toward the sounds of battle, following the path of the Navari boarding party. He found a group of Arcturian warriors pinned down in a large chamber that appeared to be a mess hall. They were using overturned tables as cover, while exchanging fire with Navari attackers at the far end of the room. Without hesitation, Kevin vaulted over the Arcturian position and landed in the open area between the two forces. Both sides paused in surprise at the sudden appearance of the human. The Arcturians recognized him immediately. "The Earth Beast," one of them said. The Navari seemed confused by his presence. Their fluid bodies rippled in what might have been their version of communication. One of them extended a limb toward Kevin, the end forming into a sharp probe similar to what he had seen them use on the wounded Arcturians. Kevin moved. To the aliens watching, he seemed to blur. His enhanced speed was now fully unleashed. He reached the first Navari before it could react, his hands striking with precision at what his implants identified as critical points in its fluid metal body. The creature emitted a high-pitched sound as its form destabilized. The other Navari reacted, their limbs transforming into weapons. They fired energy blasts that Kevin dodged with inhuman reflexes. He weaved between the shots, closing distance rapidly. His hands moved in precise patterns, targeting weak points that his implants identified in real-time analysis. One Navari managed to graze his arm with a metallic tentacle. Pain shot through Kevin's body as the alien attempted to inject its harvesting filaments. His implants responded immediately, cauterizing the wound and releasing antibodies to counter any foreign substances. He spun away from the Navari and delivered a powerful kick that sent it crashing into a wall. The battle continued for less than a minute, though to observers it seemed longer. When it ended, 7 Navari lay incapacitated on the floor, their fluid bodies struggling to maintain cohesion. Kevin stood among them, his breathing slightly elevated but otherwise showing no signs of exhaustion. The Arcturian warriors emerged from behind their cover, staring at Kevin with what might have been awe or fear. "You fight for us now?" one of them asked. "I fight for Earth," Kevin replied. "The Navari are a threat to my world too." Before they could respond, another alarm sounded. "More boarding parties detected," an Arcturian voice announced over the ship's communication system. "All warriors to Sector 12. Power core under attack." The Arcturians looked at each other with what Kevin recognized as alarm. "If they reach the power core, they could disable the entire ship," one explained. Kevin nodded. "Lead the way." They moved through the ship together, an unlikely alliance of human and Arcturians. As they ran, Kevin noticed the Arcturians watching him with new respect. His combat performance had elevated his status in their hierarchy-obsessed minds. When they reached Sector 12, they found chaos. The corridor leading to the power core was filled with bodies, both Arcturian and Navari. Energy weapons fire flashed from the entrance to the core chamber. Inside, a small group of Arcturians was making a last stand. Among them, Kevin recognized Kiravex, the sub-commander he had met earlier. She was firing a weapon with surprising accuracy for someone in the technical division. "The core must be protected at all costs," the leader of Kevin's group shouted. "For the hegemony!" The Arcturians charged forward, but they were outnumbered. The Navari had deployed at least 20 units to this section, recognizing its strategic importance. Kevin analyzed the situation in seconds. A frontal assault would fail. He needed a different approach. He turned to the Arcturian leader. "Is there another way into the core chamber?" The alien hesitated, then nodded. "Maintenance access. Through there." He pointed to a small hatch in the wall. "Hold their attention," Kevin ordered. "I'll flank them." Without waiting for a response, he moved to the hatch and squeezed his human frame through the narrow opening. The maintenance tunnel was cramped even for him. An Arcturian would never fit. He crawled quickly, following the sound of battle. The tunnel opened into the upper level of the core chamber. From his elevated position, Kevin could see the entire battlefield. Kiravex and 4 other Arcturians were cornered near the main control panel. 12 Navari were advancing on their position while others held off the reinforcements at the door. Kevin didn't hesitate. He leaped from the opening, falling 20 feet to land behind the Navari line. His enhanced legs absorbed the impact easily. Before the aliens could react to his presence, he was among them, striking with precision and devastating force. His combat implants were now operating at maximum capacity. The veins in his neck and arms glowed brightly with the nanomachines pumping combat stimulants through his system. His movements were faster than human eyes could track. Each strike was calculated for maximum effect against the Navari physiology, based on data his implants had gathered during the previous encounter. The Navari tried to adapt, their fluid bodies changing shape to create new weapons and defenses, but Kevin's implants adapted faster, analyzing each change and formulating countermeasures. For every attack they developed, he found a weakness to exploit. The battle was brief but intense. When it ended, Kevin stood amid fallen Navari, his breathing heavy but controlled. His enhanced metabolism was burning through resources rapidly. He could feel the strain on his systems. The combat overdrive was not designed for extended use. Kiravex approached him cautiously. "You saved us," she said, her voice containing what might have been awe. "Why would you help your enemy?" Kevin looked at her, his black eyes slowly returning to their normal blue as his systems began to normalize. "The Navari are a greater threat to Earth than you are. Simple strategic calculation." Kiravex studied him for a moment. "You are not what we thought humans were. You are something else entirely." "I'm exactly what humanity becomes when threatened," Kevin replied. "We adapt. We survive." Before she could respond, Kevin's enhanced hearing picked up a sound from the corridor. The reinforcements had broken through. Leading them was a tall Arcturian warrior with ornate scale patterns. His body showed signs of injury, but he moved with purpose. "Report," he demanded as he entered the core chamber. "The power core is secured, Commander," Kiravex replied. "Thanks to the human." The commander looked at Kevin, his alien features difficult to read. 2 weeks passed since the Navari attack. The Arcturian flagship had sustained heavy damage but remained operational. Kevin had been moved from his prisoner quarters to more comfortable accommodations. His status had changed from captive to something not quite ally but no longer enemy. He sat in a meeting chamber, watching stars through a viewing port as he waited for the Arcturian leadership to arrive. His communication with Earth had been regular but brief. The Security Council was cautiously optimistic about the change in his situation. The original 30-day deadline for Earth's surrender had passed without any invasion. Commander Wright had assembled a formal delegation that was now en route to a designated meeting point. No one knew exactly what to expect. The door slid open, and Kiravex entered. Her scales seemed brighter than when Kevin had first met her, a sign of good health among her species. "The council is ready for you," she said. "They've been debating for hours." Kevin nodded and stood. "What's your assessment?" Kiravex hesitated. The death of Supreme Commander Drazkul has created a power vacuum. The traditional succession process involves combat trials, but your actions during the Navari attack have complicated matters. Some see alliance with humans as weakness. Others see it as strategic necessity. Kevin had learned of Drazkul's death during the battle. The Supreme Commander had been fatally wounded while leading a counterattack against the Navari. His absence had created chaos in the rigid Arcturian hierarchy. "And where do you stand?" Kevin asked as they walked toward the council chamber. "I believe in survival," Kiravex replied simply. "The Navari attack was just a scouting force. Our long-range sensors have detected a much larger fleet approaching both Arcturian space and Earth. Neither of us can stand alone against them." They reached the council chamber, a large room with a circular table where 8 senior Arcturians sat. Each wore insignia indicating their division within the hegemony fleet. Military, science, resources, and other specialties were represented. At the head of the table sat Acting Commander Zurvan, who had taken temporary control after Drazkul's death. "The human representative may approach," Zurvan announced formally. Kevin walked forward and stood at the empty place at the table. He remained standing since he had not been invited to sit, a sign of his uncertain status. "We have reviewed the data from the Navari encounter," Zurvan began. Your actions were unexpected. By Arcturian standards, you had no obligation to assist us against our common enemy. Humans have different standards, Kevin replied. So we are learning, Zurvan said. Our preliminary studies of your world suggest we have greatly underestimated your species. The question before this council is how to proceed. An older Arcturian with faded scales spoke next. The original plan to harvest Earth should continue. One enhanced human does not change our need for resources. Resource Minister Orkal speaks truth, another council member agreed. We cannot alter our expansion plans because of one anomalous specimen. Kevin remained silent, watching the debate unfold. His implants recorded everything while analyzing the power dynamics in the room. Kiravex stood to the side, officially present as a technical advisor but actually there to support Kevin's position. The specimen is not anomalous, she interjected when there was a pause. Our expanded scans of Earth show similar facilities to those that must have created this human. They are manufacturing more like him. This was not entirely accurate. Project Year. Cerberus had produced only 12 enhanced soldiers and Kevin was the most successful, but the Arcturians didn't need to know that. If Earth can create warriors of this capability, direct conquest would result in unacceptable casualties, the military representative noted. We have already lost 17 elite warriors to this single human, either in combat or from injuries too severe for recovery. And what of the approaching Navari fleet? Kiravex pressed. Our projections show they will reach Earth first, then continue to our core systems. We lack the forces to defend both fronts. The council fell silent at this reminder. Kevin sensed the shift in the room. Fear of the Navari was outweighing their desire for Earth's resources. There may be another option, Kevin said quietly. All eyes turned to him. An alliance between Earth and the Arcturian hegemony against the Navari threat. Alliance? The resource minister sounded disgusted. We do not ally with lesser species. Then you will fall to the Navari alone, Kevin replied calmly. And so will Earth. Or we can combine our strengths and both survive. Before anyone could respond, a communication officer entered the chamber. Acting Commander, the Earth delegation has arrived at the rendezvous point. Zurvan looked at Kevin. It seems your people are eager to hear our terms. We should not keep them waiting. The meeting moved to the command deck where the Earth delegation could be seen on the main viewer. Commander Wright stood at the center of a group of 5 humans in formal diplomatic attire. Her eyes widened slightly when she saw Kevin standing freely among the Arcturians. This is Commander Allison Wright of the United Earth Defense Force, she introduced herself. We are here to discuss terms with the Arcturian hegemony. Zurvan stepped forward. I am Acting Commander Zurvan. Your representative has been most interesting to study. We have reconsidered our approach to Earth. Wright's expression remained neutral, but Kevin could tell she was cautiously optimistic. We are prepared to listen. The Arcturian hegemony proposes a military alliance against the Navari collective, Zurvan stated. Our intelligence indicates their main fleet will reach your system within 60 days. Neither of us can defeat them alone. Wright looked at Kevin, a silent question in her eyes. He gave a small nod. Earth is willing to consider an alliance, Wright replied carefully. But we would need assurances that this is not simply a delay of your original plans. Zurvan turned to Kiravex. Sub-Commander, present your proposal. Kiravex stepped forward. I have suggested a formal treaty between our peoples. The hegemony would recognize Earth as a sovereign power rather than a resource world. In exchange, Earth would share the technology that created your enhanced warrior. Together, we could develop defenses against the Navari that neither could create alone. Dr. Samantha Miller, standing beside Wright in the Earth delegation, spoke up. Project Cerberus is classified at the highest level. Sharing that technology would require significant trust between our peoples. Trust must begin somewhere, Kiravex replied. Your war beast has earned our respect. That is not given lightly by Arcturians. The negotiations continued for hours. Kevin remained silent for most of it, watching the process unfold. His presence was symbol enough. Earth hadn't sent just any diplomat. They had sent him, and that had changed everything. Finally, a preliminary agreement was reached. The Earth delegation would board the Arcturian flagship to finalize details. The original invasion fleet would be repurposed for the defense of both worlds against the coming Navari threat. As the command deck cleared, Kiravex approached Kevin. "Your Dr. Miller asked to speak with you privately when she arrives. She seemed concerned about your physical condition." Kevin nodded. His implants had been warning him for days about the strain on his systems. The extended use of combat protocols during the Navari attack had accelerated the degradation process. He had perhaps 3 years before complete system failure. "She's monitoring my status," he explained simply. "You're dying," Kiravex said. It wasn't a question. Her species could detect certain biological markers. "The enhancements that make you powerful are killing you." "Eventually," Kevin admitted. "But I'll complete my mission first." Kiravex was silent for a moment. "Our medical technology might help extend your function. That could be part of our exchange." Kevin looked at her with surprise. "Why would you offer that?" "You saved my life in the power core," she replied, "and you've potentially saved both our species. Besides, I find humans fascinating, especially you." Before Kevin could respond, the doors opened as the Earth delegation arrived on the command deck. Dr. Miller immediately broke protocol and hurried to Kevin's side. Her concern was evident as she looked him over. "Your readings have been all over the place," she said quietly. "The combat protocols did more damage than we anticipated." "I'm functional," Kevin assured her. Commander Wright joined them, looking at Kevin with respect and something close to awe. "You've accomplished the impossible, Sergeant. Earth is safe, at least for now, and we have a new ally," Kevin added, glancing at Kiravex as the formal introductions began between the two groups. Wright pulled Kevin aside for a moment. "The Council wants to know," she said quietly. "Was this outcome part of your plan all along? Did you anticipate turning the Arcturians from enemies to allies?" Kevin thought about the question. He had been sent as a demonstration of human strength, expected to buy time or possibly die trying. No one had anticipated the Navari attack or the opportunity it would create. "Earth didn't send a diplomat," he replied with a small smile. "They deployed a war beast. But sometimes understanding the beast is the first step toward peace." Wright nodded slowly. "When this is over, when the Navari threat is dealt with, Earth will need someone who can maintain this new relationship. Someone the Arcturians respect." Kevin understood what she was suggesting. A new role. Not just a weapon, but something more. His remaining years could have purpose beyond combat.